7 p.m. All councilmen are in attendance, and we do have a quorum, so we will conduct business. Let the record also show that Town Clerk Gray is also in attendance. And could I get everyone to stand for the resolution? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so welcome everyone. This meeting is to discuss our fire protection agreement for Mid-Valley Fire District and also the building across the street. So we'll discuss both contracts. There'll be one motion, so I can find both of those. I did leave some copies out here if you happen to pick one up. I first would like to go a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as written. I second that.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, motion carries. So the for the people here that haven't been to other meetings, the town has, or after the town was formed, has contracted with Thane for fire protection. 2 years ago, Mid-Valley Fire Department was created, and that was based on a vote of county residents within that district. We tried very hard to get enough signatures to get on the ballot. Councilman Bailey did a ton of work trying to make sure that we got those signatures. And we made the signature part, but we didn't make the dollar part. They don't make it easy to get something on the ballot. So we didn't make that, and so because of that, county commissioners were able to put it on the ballot, but only on the county residents, not on the town. So the town of Thane, Town of Star Valley Ranch, as of today, is still not part of the district. However, that would be who we would contract. So kind of give you a little more history. In April at the council meeting, the 2 members of the Mid-Valley Board came to the meeting and told us, kind of what was going on as far as new contract. Thane is no longer wanting to be in the fire district and the fire business, I guess. And if you kind of paid attention to what's going on in Thane, they had a little police department that's gone. They had EMS, and that now is all under the hospital umbrella, even though you might see the ambulance around us is saying it's everything was turned over to the hospital, Alpine, Thane, and Alpine. So now the hospital runs EMS, and the last thing that was left was fire. And the town of Thane wanted to turn everything over to the Mid-Valley Fire District. So that kind of comes where we are today. On June 15th, the town council met, and we had a contract from the fire district. It was a combination of the town. It was a 3-way contract, Thane, Star Valley Ranch, and Mid-Valley Fire. The council did not approve that, and so we've kind of been back and forth on a couple of different ideas of what we wanted to do. One of the things that I think the council decided to have 2 separate agreements rather than one agreement that was the building and for fire protection. That there is now 2 separate agreements, one for the fire protection portion of it and one for the building. Just to kind of give you an idea, the county residents are paying 3 mills. So it comes through property taxes. They pay 3 mills to Mid-Valley Fire. We had a contract with Thane, which was less. It was $53,000, and they initially said that they would honor the contract with Thane, charge us $53,000 for this year, and then it would move up to the 3 mills, which is $157,000, I think. But now that has changed, so now we're at 3 mills because we didn't approve the contract on the 50. But there were several reasons. The town council definitely didn't feel comfortable with that contract. There was a lot of concerns, and so we have now the new contract, and this one will start on April 18th. So we are actually covered, or September 18th, sorry, thank you. We are actually still covered. We still have fire protection. until September 18th under our old contract with Spain. So I just want to make sure it gets complicated, but it's really not. Mid-Valley Fire has decided to honor that contract through September 18th. So we do have coverage until that point. The biggest changes on the contract that we have today, that we did have an attorney go through, and he felt like it was fine, was we would like to pay the 3 mils on the, and that's on property taxes, on the actual amount we receive. And the other contract said it was based on assessment. So the actual amount received, but it would still be 3 mils. So that's probably the biggest change there. And then this new term agreement, this is a 10-year agreement, and that will go from September 18th, 2022 to June 30th, 2032. So, and that really complies with all statutes. So I think those are the biggest thing on that agreement. And then I'll kind of walk through the ones that are building across the street. And then I'll take questions. So if you come up for questions, please make sure you state your name, because we need to have that for the record. So the agreement on the building, and it's the same kind of thing, that the same fire department has been using that building for several years. I think probably 10 years at least. They keep an engine there. They have some other equipment in there, some training equipment. And part of being Mid-Valley Fire, they'll actually have some money to buy an engine, which they desperately need. So they're buying a new engine that is 4-wheel drive that will work in our town, which is a big deal. They want to put that engine all over there too. So we would have 2 engines there. I think there's a small water pumper, I'm not sure, but those are the 2 big things, those 2 engines. So that's kind of what they're doing for us. This new agreement is basically, we have some repair work that needs to be done to that building. They told us that they would pay for it, but we have already budgeted for it. We've already got a contractor to do it, and so the council decided that we would pay for that building. We see all that building, and it's our building. And just in case anyone knows, it is structurally sound. It's just not. So kind of how it is with that building. So that was one of the things that we would take care of the maintenance on that building. And then the other thing was, the other big one was that Mid-Valley Fire would help us pay for heat and electricity. So we still have some things stored in that building, not right this minute, but we keep our coal patch in there in the winter because it has to be a heated building. And so we're going to split the cost of electrical and heating with Mid-Valley Fire. That's the other thing that the council wanted. And then we just put some rules in here that we already had in place with the agreement we have with them right now. Make sure the town is protected in case something happens. So I think that's the gist of it. Councilman Bailey, did you have anything you wanted to add to it?
No, I don't. So I think before we open it up to questions, we should probably have a motion. I'll read the motion. I move the town of Star Valley Ranch approves Mayor Kathleen Myers as the town's representative and authorize Mayor Kathleen Myers to sign the appropriate documents for the fire protection agreement between Mid-Valley Fire District and the town of Star Valley Ranch.
Second?
Also good.
It's been moved and seconded. Okay, I would like to open the questions. If someone has questions, come up to the podium, state your name, and we're going to go from there.
Wayne Hall, and I think I know all. Just maybe one thing to tell everybody. I believe they told us there are 4 firefighters who do live in the town of Star Valley Ranch.
Yes.
This is another thing that I think probably most of us don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next question is very simple. We had these conversations already with Mid-Valley Fire, so they know this is what's coming.
They do have a copy of it. Their meeting is Wednesday at 6 p.m., so it's open to the public at the firehouse and things.
Do they have any indication how they feel about it?
Not 100%. I think they're pretty kind of explain. So the 3 mils, we would not like to pay it until after we actually receive that money. It's based on your assessment, so those aren't going to change really, and they think that we should pay it based on the assessment. We want to pay it based on actuals. According to Jerry Greenfield, who is the county treasurer, not a lot of difference between those two dollar amounts. So I know that's one of the sticking points for them. So, I mean, right now, we thought we were getting, we're at 87,000. We haven't been paid for June yet. So, and they estimated, it was less than that on the assessment, wasn't it? I'm not sure what it was, 220, I don't know. But anyway, so that's what we received so far this year. So does that answer your question? Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Brand Gooder, I'm on the Finance Advisory Board as well. First time I've seen this, so it seems to be pretty common, things pop out of the weeds. But I've been trying to, so maybe we'll get up to speed. Is this 3 mills, is that incremental to 68 mills that the county charges, or the 8 mills that we receive?
So we receive 8 meals, 3 of our meals would go to them.
Okay,
So we will
3
have
of the
that.
8, we'll fund it with that. Okay.
So there'll be you won't see any difference in your taxes.
Is there a financial analysis that has the cost of the utilities and propane and electrical?
We just went through and looked at what it costs for a year. And so we kind of came up with $2,600.
For building costs?
Yeah.
How much is the upfront investment to repair it?
It was 14,000, 12,000. 12,000, and yeah, so what's going on with that building is that it's got the lean-tos on each side, and the structural engineer basically said the lean-tos are pulling the building down eventually. So that is to fix the roof, fix the siding, and take the lean-tos off.
All right, what's the offset for we paying today, the thing?
53,000 is what we had, that's what we paid last year.
Does that come out of the 8 mills, or how are we funding it?
Yeah, we just paid out of operation.
So the
Out of public
citizen,
safety, actually.
the citizen won't see a return of that 53,000, we'll just be absorbing the budget. So it's really,
Yeah.
now the 8 mills, the assessed values of Sun Valley Ranch have gone up 48% next year. So that means our 8 mills is going to give us about 12 mills worth of revenue. And I don't think there was anybody that pursued reducing the millage like Teton County has for some of the taxing authorities. We're still claiming the whole 8 mills.
We are taking the whole
40%.
yeah, we are.
In reference to that, I have been in contact with Senator Dockstetter and raised the same question.
Yeah, so,
He's, okay, then you know he's in Cheyenne trying to get something changed.
yeah, they're trying to do a variety of things to reduce that net effect. All right, I just wanted to ask those questions. I wasn't sure how the mills fit into this.
Yep, that's how it works, thanks, Ryan. Okay, who's next? Good question.
One time I asked a question from you, and you said that we don't always get all the sales tax back to Star Valley, that if you're not a full-time resident, that snowbirds don't count when money comes back to us. Now, is that going to affect this? So
No, so sales tax, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So if the snowbird, if they pay into property taxes, then right now, we're not getting our fair share of the property taxes coming back because we've had half of our population that are non-residents. Is that correct or not?
No, so, sales tax is population, property tax is property tax. So whatever our people pay in, we do get that
Okay, so we get
back.
that back.
Yeah, we do see that. Yeah, but towns tend to run on sales tax, and so that's why the census is so important. So I think that's when we had that conversation.
I'm still very, when I maintain a residence here,
Yeah, that's fine.
so, all my tax, we get credit for me.
Right, no, but I mean, there's half the people that don't get
Yeah.
that, you know what I mean? And so then, is this all going to include like the RV park?
No, just the town.
So they're not going to have fire protection then?
They do, they already pay the 3 mils.
They pay the $3 million?
Yeah.
So how does that work if you have $100,000 that we're going to be taking out of the system?
Mhm.
How are they going to reimburse that $100,000? How are we going to reimburse that $100,000?
So you have to cut some projects, basically.
That's what project?
Cut projects, yeah. So that's the operation, that's the, general fund, so that's like roads, public safety, those kind of things come out of the general fund, not water. Water is separate.
No, I didn't say water.
Yeah, yeah.
So how are we gonna pay for that difference?
That
Without
would,
raising taxes.
yeah, we can't raise the taxes, so it would be cutting projects,
So
whether
pay-
it's
so-
roads or we don't have as much left over at the end of the year. So that could be part of it.
So how much do we have left over at the year?
Well, this year that we just finished, we had $500,000, so we put that into roads. So, yeah.
Okay, when you say the 4 firefighters, which Wayne was talking about,
Mhm.
now, are these gonna be volunteer firefighters? But there's not gonna be nobody, so if they wanna leave town,
Mhm.
will there be anybody that's gonna be covering their position?
I think they have a little over 40 firefighters total. We just happen to have 4 that live here. So, yeah, they're all volunteers. So they cover for each other. Mhm.
And what size fire trucks did you say? Were we gonna get quick response fire trucks? Is that what?
I
Is
know.
that what's gonna be like a little BLM?
It's-
There you call that an engine, or are you gonna have engines that can fight a house fire?
Yeah, they're structure engines. So it would be a structure engine. The one we have in there is kind of, I think it's type 2. It'll do wildland and structure.
And how much is this gonna, going with these, how much is that going to reduce our insurance? What are we gonna be rated?
If we do nothing, it'll go up, but if we stay the way we are now, it's not going to reduce your insurance.
How
Because
much
we
would
still
it
have
go
a
up?
volunteer fire department.
Do we have any idea what class would go up to?
If we had nothing, 10, which would be the top.
Okay. But there still would be any insurance. Thank
My understanding here, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Willard Chickarelli. Could you go over a little bit on item number 3, cost of beyond attaching the services that should, my dumb brain understands that.
This is an interesting one. The council had quite a few questions about this. So, Mid-Valley Fire has a cooperative agreement with Alpine and with APP. So if they're busy, then those two will come. This refers more to federal. If federal comes into town, which they would do for us, but not necessarily here, I think it was more, and I can ask the council for their members here to talk about this. It's more to protect, to let us know that it's a possibility, is my understanding, that we have to pay.
If fire gets beyond what this new Mid-Valley Fire Department can handle, they would solicit other resources to help them. Some they have reciprocal agreements, and others, if it gets really wild and into the Forest Service, then the feds would come in and basically take over.
We wouldn't be billed for that though, would we?
We should not be
We should
billed
not be
for
billed.
that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that answers it.
Okay. Good question.
And this was in a previous contract. And we, Mid-Valley responds to Alpine. They have, on a hangar fire when they need more help.
Sure.
So,
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Marty Royan. So if I understand, we had an agreement that we were considering. And there were some issues that caused us not to approve that agreement, and you're now looking at approving a different one.
Correct.
And Mid-Valley has not made a determination as to whether or not that agreement is acceptable to them.
This agreement, yes.
Right.
That is correct.
What are the essential differences between the two agreements, the one we turned down and the one we're offering now?
The one that we turned down was $52,000 for the first year, and then we went to $3 million for the first fiscal year. There was a paragraph in there about the building, and the council wanted a separate contract for the building. So there was those two issues. I think those were the biggest ones.
Well, they actually did more than, say, 3 mils. They said 157,700.
Which was based on.
361, which was based on the assessment.
Right.
And historically, we don't necessarily always realize the return of their 8 mil, of the county's 8 mils back to us on our historical assessment. Plus, that changes over the years, it can go up or it can go down.
So this year we've got more.
What's the typical difference between what happens historically and the three mills that we're asking for? And how significant a difference would that have been?
The assessment prior to our new assessment was 36 million, and that equated to somewhere around 280-some thousand. But in years up to this point, that was our assessment, and we never really saw that until this last year. So it's always been lower.
My understanding from talking to the county treasurer, Jerry Greenfield, is that his exact words was this nil, just what he said. It's not a lot of difference because you pay a property taxes based on what you're assessed. And so we get it kind of strange because, for example, mortgage companies may pay it twice a year. And so we'll get a big check twice a year, and then we may get really small checks. And so it's not like you would think where we get it all quarterly. It comes in based on how we're paid. He said the only time we would really see a big difference between the assessment and what we actually see if there was a tax sale and they sold properties, and we would see that difference from your tax.
So it sounds like it's relatively negligible between the two. And we had an agreement, the paragraph concerning the building movement notwithstanding, that they were happy with. And essentially, the cost is going to be relatively the same. If they don't like this agreement, what happens?
If they don't like this agreement, then we go back to not the original agreement with the 53,000. We lost that one. We didn't approve it. So we would go back to basically 3 mills. The only difference really is the 3 mills would be paid based on the assessment and not based on the actual.
Okay, I'm a little bit lost now. So does that send us back to the original agreement that they wanted?
The original agreement that we did not pass was between 3 entities. That one, we lost our chance on that one. So now it would be a contract with just us and Mid-Valley Fire, and it goes straight to the 3 mills.
And if Mid-Valley doesn't like this agreement, we're not left with nothing?
We're not left with nothing. We got a bargaining table, basically.
So we're not left with nothing, but we don't necessarily have something.
Correct. We are covered until September 18th. So their meeting is Wednesday.
Okay.
I don't have a good feeling, but I don't know what they're going to do.
Also, in the original contract, it started with Mid-Valley July 10th. We were under coverage with Zane till September 18th, so for 90 days, we theoretically could have been paying double coverage for the same people and the same.
But that's not true because Mid-Valley agreed to honor the contract.
Yeah, that's what I understood.
Until the 18th, yeah. So we would not.
And they're still honoring that.
They're still honoring.
Until September 18th.
Till
So
September.
that wouldn't have been a factor.
Yeah, they're covering us until September 18th. So.
Wayne Hall again, sorry.
Go ahead.
Maybe I can just help to
Okay.
clarify some of this. So they want us to sign the assessment. We want the actions.
Correct.
Obviously, we don't want them to know what a fallback position is, but I assume that you, Mayor, and the council already knows what that fallback position is, so that we don't walk out of there without an agreement. Because if you look at the last item on here, which is J, I think all of us here would agree that time is of the essence, and we're like 60 days away from this, and I would just hate to see us walk out of there without something. I mean, I think we just need to go into the negotiation, knowing this is what we're asking for. So we gotta be prepared to walk out of there with. They want the action, I mean, maybe they know that and they're gonna find out after this meeting, I don't know. But we gotta come out of there, in my mind, with an agreement.
Right.
Because 60 days away from this agreement doesn't feel too good. And I was here at the last meeting. I don't think they're gonna walk away from this thing, but it was pretty close. And I think we need to have some sense of, we both need each other, we probably need them quite a bit more than they need us. And we need this relationship to be a good, solid relationship going forward and no animosity from anybody. So I just hope we can get this all resolved in that next meeting. That's my, I know you all feel the same way, but that's just my 2 cents.
At the last meeting, Matt Skinner also agreed, and I asked him personally, that we should only pay on monies received, and he agreed to that. We should not pay him.
Yeah. So hopefully they'll all agree with that.
Yes.
So I have asked the, county treasurer to be at the meeting on Wednesday, so he can explain the mills, so everybody's on the same page how it works. So that may help.
All right, and, considering what he just clarified, does the motion that you just, had seconded, does it allow you then to negotiate a fallback position, or are you bound to this contract by, if the council approves, the motion?
I'm bound by this contract.
So it isn't a negotiating position, then you can't go to a fallback.
I think the way, the motion just gives me permission to sign this document. It's all it does.
And we have,
Can I make a clarification?
Yes.
You read it very carefully. It says, Mayor Byers, as the town's representative, and authorize Mayor Byers to sign the appropriate documents for the fire protection agreement between Mid Valley and Town of Star Valley. It is not tied to this particular contract.
I'd kind of like a sense from the council that they're not gonna bite you in the back if you sign an agreement that's different than this contract. Just considering that we only have a couple of months to, shore up our fire protection, and, I'm still paying the mortgage, I'm a little concerned.
Yeah. And their next meeting is not till after the 18th, so.
Yeah, I'd like-
Wednesday to me is the deadline.
I mean, for me, I'd like it to be a little clearer if you have the ability to negotiate. If they turn this down, and it sounds like it was a little bit contentious over what seems to be a negligible amount of money in the first place.
Thank you. And,
I just wanted to know the time of Wednesday's meeting in May.
6 p.m.
6, yes, thank you.
And it's at the firehouse.
As a moment. Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Chuck Hewins. I appreciate the work you've done. I think you've come up with good compromise. The wording that you just read seems like it gives it a chance to be negotiated if it has to be. One question, I'm kind of new to studying it. It looks like it cost us $50,000, $60,000, and we could have held that $50,000, $60,000 for one more year, but now it's going to cost us roughly $157,000. Okay, and that's on you all. Hopefully you made the right decision for $100,000.
I've been involved a little bit in this, so let me take the other side of this story. There's a lot of emotion going on about not having fire service. I've been a mayor for 9 years. I've worked with the same people down there for 9 years. It's Mid-Valley Fire Department, 3 individuals that represent that. Everything else other than that are sane, volunteer firemen. They are honorable. They do things. They don't do things for money. If your house is burning and there's no contract, they don't say, "Hey, we got a contract up there," or because we know we can't go. They come up, and then after the fire is put out, then they say, "Do we have a contract? Are we paid?" And that kind of thing. I would put my trust in those gentlemen and ladies more than I would anybody else as far as providing us fire. So first off, remove the emotion for just a few minutes. The first contract did not protect our town. It protected them. It didn't say anything about, it said, and again, I trust the people who are there, and I trust these five people very much. But guess what, in 10 years, a 10-year contract, folks, they're gonna be gone and so are they. There's gonna be two different parties looking at that contract. And it says that the town of Star Valley Ranch would pay the, Mid-Valley Fire Department money, assessed values. It was construed that if it was something other than just that, we had to pay it. They're not the said out of, 3 mils out of sales tax. I mean,
Property.
property tax. And so there were a lot of holes in that contract. It was very loosely written. And so that's the reason why. Now, did we lose money? I don't think so, because they talked about a flat dollar amount. And if the, assessed value, that's what we were assessed, times our value. If that changes, we still pay it. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not protecting our town. It's going to cost us $100,000 a year more for exactly the same service. We've had that service for 10 years, 20 years. 7 years, 7 years at 53. And now because they can do it, they're doing it to us. And I don't know about you, but I like that 100,000 going into my road or somewhere else. And if we don't put up some kind of delay, this is not one of those things, they bend over, we're gone. There's a fire department up in Alpine and a fire department down in Akron. If we're paying for a new truck, let's pay for their new truck to sit out here. We'll get volunteers from here to go up there. There are other alternatives. So just please take the emotion out of it. We're gonna have fire. If you have a fire, it's gonna be put out. Those guys are gonna come up here, whether they're reciprocal or not. So enough said.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead.
Meredith, former Mayor Tidwell, are you opposed to this?
No, I think this contract has got a lot of good words in it.
No, I'm just asking, are you opposed to this contract, not the words in it? Are you opposed to them signing the contract?
Absolutely not. We don't have
That's
that.
what it sounded like here.
No,
Like
no.
you're opposed to it.
I just don't want people thinking that we have to have something done tomorrow afternoon. Or
We
we're
do
losing.
have to have something
No,
done.
we don't.
I'm sorry. I'm just asking because you asked us to take a motion out, we started having a motion.
I was emotional. Sorry about that.
All right, we have no other questions. We have, sure.
I was gonna be quiet, but I'm not.
Yeah, I know how you are.
Just a question. We talk about an 8 mil levy on assessed value of property. And we're also talking about 3 mils, 3 of that 8 mils going to the Mid-Valley Fire Department. Okay. I know it's hard for you to believe, but not everyone pays their property taxes. Okay, so the way I'm interpreting what we're talking about here is the town of Star Valley Ranch pays 3/8 of the amount they receive in property taxes to Mid-Valley Fire. Okay, now at some point, some people, repent their ways and decide, or sell their property and have to pay the property taxes, which are in arrears. That comes in the property tax too, and so Mid-Valley Fire District also gets 3/8 of the back taxes that are collected. Is that, do I have the right? Yep.
Yeah, that's my understanding. We get the check from the county based on their shenanigans or whatever. And we just turn around and
3/8 of it goes to, 3/8 of it goes to.
we're not trying to negotiate how much next year's going to be or anything. It's okay, well, once we get it, we'll give you that much, as far as, that's what the previous contracts, they thought we were going to do next year's assessment. Our estimate for receipts for next year was 288 or 276, what's that? 27. 3/8 of that is 100 and something. They wanted 150 based on next year's estimated, property taxes. So this is, well, when we get it, what did you your share? We're not having to fight with the county or anybody else.
Okay, now, if the mill levies aren't changed, okay, then the county is going to have a significant windfall in property tax. And I'm wondering about, say, they get religion and decide to only assess 6 mills. Okay, so,
Well, we would have, I'm not sure how that works, but when the town was formed, were the 8 mills automatically, or did we have to go to the county and actually
Right? Mayor? The 8 mills is set by state statutes, and they don't adjust the mills, the 63 or whatever mills that are total that they charge us, and our 8 mills, those are set. What they do is they adjust the number between your assessed value and what they charge us. There's a calculation or K-factor that they multiply that by. That's what they would adjust. They're not going to change the valuation of home. They will change the multiplier times that evaluation to set so that it comes out lower, so when they charge the mill.
so essentially, for all intents and purposes, it would be reduced to 6 mills. If you did the actual calculation.
No, that rate,
Or whatever.
that rate is set more by statute, the 9.5% times the assessed value. The mills, the towns, are all the receiving authorities to submit to the county's assessor's office how much they want. So the town actually could say, we only want 6 mills, but we have a person keep reducing.
Okay, but I'm still sensing a real windfall from these increased, assessments that we're looking for. And maybe not this year, some.
We would get the same 8 mills out of that windfall, wouldn't we?
Correct.
So even if Mid-Valley got additional money because our portion of the 8 mills is higher, so they get a higher portion of the 3 mills, we still get a higher portion of the 5/8 that remains, so it's essentially a wash either way.
Let me jump in here for just a second. We've heard all about the different assessment pieces. One thing the people have to understand is your property taxes went up 43% on the assessed value. You won't pay that until December of this year, and the town will not see that until July of next year. What the Mid-Valley wanted was 3 mills based on the assessed value, which we would not be receiving. By changing the contract to the value of that we did receive, so that goes up and down. Let's say the state comes back in and says, okay, we're going to change this evaluation, something like a homestead tax that I had in another state. So my taxes stayed down here on my property, but everybody else's went up. That's what we received. That's what Mid-Valley would get their money on, not the assessed value.
Well, aside from the assessed value though, it's anybody, that has their finger in the property tax has the potential to get a windfall.
Depending on whether or not it stays at the assessed value or they make some adjustment to give you as the homeowner a break based on your property. It could go down.
I hope you've heard that, I will.
Let me just say, the house I sold in another state, I was paying, I'd owned it for 20 years. I was paying less than $2,000 a year in property taxes because they had a homestead law. The guy that bought it is now paying $6,000 a year. So,
We don't have a homestead.
I know you don't, but that's being debated.
Just one point here. So the assessed value that we're having here, is there a cost possibility that a fallback could, we pay them these 3 mills every, how often?
Quarterly.
So could a fallback position be, we'll pay you the first 3 quarters on your assessed value and we'll true it up in the 4th quarter based on actions? And then we're all, I'm just suggesting a fallback.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, it's the same.
It's possible. You don't have to have
a fallback position.
I'm not sure what Mid Valley's financial picture is. And to me, I think they're trying to save money for pay for that food truck and also to start demonstrate to the grantors of funds in Wyoming where they need to build a new facility around there. And so,
I don't think any of that.
I'm not sure, if they get
Providing
$1,000,
Yeah,
they're just,
no,
I think the reason they want this sign right away is because they're having to go to the county or the state and try to show they've got this money coming in, it's their income, so they can get loans or grants or, but I'm just guessing, that's what's going on, I'm not sure.
yeah, I don't, I was gonna say, be careful, you're in a public meeting.
Christian Merrill, I just had a question, I didn't get the copy of it or checked out this time, but I was wondering about, I know that termination, we have 90 days, decide to terminate in the next 10 years, and then they have 30 days if we're not, holding up our end of the contract. But is the lease the same way? It's like it's some, it is. Okay.
Yeah, we made it exactly the same.
Okay.
For time frame. Okay. There, go ahead.
I just would like everybody to know, gotta quit biting my tongue before it starts to bleed. We postponed that contract on the 15th because we got the last iteration at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon before we were supposed to vote on it. And there's no way that we could possibly evaluate that responsibly as councilmen to decide whether there were things in there that we did or did not like. And so, out of that, we were able to evaluate it and make sure that the town of Star Valley Ranch ended up with a fair and equitable contract. And make sure the best interests of the town were protected. So it wasn't like a whimsical thing that the council decided that it's best before we jump into something, let's at least make sure what the words say, because the words are very important. And I also like to say there never was a consideration that we wanted the town of Star Valley Ranch to be without fire protection. Never. And there also was never any consideration that we didn't want to pay our fair share. We do want to pay our fair share. We want to pay the fair share the same way that the county residents in Mid-Valley Fire Districts pay. And they pay into the county, and the county gives them the 3 mills back to Mid-Valley on what they receive. And that's all we want to do, is to pay back 3 mills on the money we receive from revenue, and not on some fixed asset value that may or may not be anywhere close to what people end up paying. So this is what we ended up achieving, was getting the clause changed such that we are going to pay 3 mills based on the monies received. And we also were able to separate that building out where they had a lease as part of the agreement. Was they not only controlled the building, they controlled all of the property around it. So we pulled that out, and that's definitely a change. And we changed our start time from the July 10th to September 18th, sorry. In order to not have the potential of 2 contracts running simultaneously. And there were also some just silly grammatical mistakes in the contract. we needed to fix. And so you can Monday morning quarterback all you want about, oh my gosh, we didn't sign a very early one that they were generously offering us $53,000 for the first year instead of the received value of our 3 mills. But we had, that was pulled very early, and that contract went away quickly. So, anyway, I'm saying that the council did I believe, a diligent job of reviewing the contract and making sure that the town's best interests were realized with this contract.
I had some notes and they kind of mirror lease, but on the building and lease, but that was a 10-year lease for $1 a year.
Yeah.
We were responsible for everything, and they paid $1 a year for 10 years.
Okay. One more.
Was that original contract something we negotiated, or was that something they just presented?
No, we had gone back and forth. Originally, they wanted the 3 mills up front, and my concern is that we already had a contract with them, so they came back and said, okay, we'll do 53 and then the 3 mills.
And just to clarify, we made changes to that offer.
Yeah.
That has not been achieved. They haven't said they want to do it.
Do what?
What we're going to present to them on Wednesday.
That is correct.
So saying we've achieved it is kind of an overstatement. We haven't achieved it.
They haven't seen it.
We'll see. No, they have. They've had it for a while. Yes, they have.
But we also have a comment from one of the directors, Lance Skinner, that said that it's reasonable to him to pay on monies received rather than the money recessed.
So just to clarify, the 3 people who were on the board, they were elected to that board, so there is 3 people that are all in that position. Anyway, I think we should continue.
Mayor,
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
On a building across the street, we're not gonna charge them anything other than just their share of the utilities.
60% of.
You know, but we're not gonna charge them for the investment of $15,000.
No.
And we'll do snow removal and we'll pay the water.
It's our building,
It's our building.
and we use it at times. That's a bigger issue. So, okay. Yep. No, add a question?
Call the question.
Oh, so the motion is on the table. Could I get a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, motion carries. Last item on the agenda is to adjourn.
I would suggestion we adjourn the special meeting.
Second?
I'll second.
And moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, motion carries.